In honor of the 4th of July next week, we wanted to talk about why we love America. My grandfather, who served in World War II, gave a speech on Veterans Day, November 11th, 1963, in Newport, Rhode Island. I read it often, not just because I miss him, but also because he knew what it was to be a soldier, to be in war, and to return. He was from a time that valued sacrifice, valued this country and the ideals upon which it was founded. We've come a long way from this kind of pride and humility. I share this so we don't forget. Veterans Day, November 11th, 1963. Bear with me, guys. This can be a tough one to get through. All right. Today is a day of the dead and a day of the living. It is a day somber with mourning and a day bright with expectant hopes. It is a day for looking sadly back into past sorrows and a day for peering courageously ahead to future challenges. It is a day consecrated to the memory of those brave men who perished in war that this country might survive, and it is a day which honors those men equally brave who, under a merciful providence, returned from war that this country might prosper. Of the dead warriors, I can say little. Think of them in their thousands. Their bodies lie buried on the slopes of the mist-shrouded mountains of Korea, under the waving palms of Iwo Jima, in the dank jungles of Guadalcanal, beneath the hot sands of North Africa and the fruitful orchards of Normandy. Or to go back to an earlier war, their graves stretch endlessly across the meadows of Chateau Thierry, along the banks of the Somme and of the Marne, and beneath the whispering trees of the Argonne forest. Other thousands there are who have no graves, for they drowned under the heaving waters of all the world's oceans, or they fell in fiery wreckage from the skies, leaving not a trace of their earthly passage. My fellow citizens, we seldom recall that our own Newport once groaned under the heel of an invader's boot. The trees of this island were cut down, its flocks and herds ravished, its people troubled and molested for 2 long years by an English garrison. Why the house, which the British general occupied as his headquarters, still stands on the northeast corner of Pelham and Spring Streets. But that was all nearly 200 years ago, during the Revolutionary War, before our nation was born. Since that time, never has an invading army ringed our city or tramped through our streets or plundered our homes. We and all the rest of this country have been protected because times beyond numbering, brave men have stood on distant battlefields and stopped with their living flesh the bullets of our enemies. Compared with their massive sacrifice, how puny are our words of eulogy, how feeble our expressions of gratitude. In the final analysis, there are but 2 services we can render to the fallen heroes of our country. We can commend them to a mercy beyond this world, trusting that a hand infinitely more generous, incomparably more powerful than ours, will suitably recompense them for the deaths they died that this nation might live. And we can do all in our power to see to it that those men did not die in vain, that the flag they struggled and bled for will continue to wave over a land of life, of liberty, of the pursuit of happiness. Besides commemorating these soldiers who are now gloriously at rest, November the 11th honors also those veterans who are still engaged in the struggle of life. We survived war. We returned home, we married, we founded families, our sons and daughters, and in many cases our grandchildren surround us now. We were not fated to die for our country. Ours, from many angles, is a heavier responsibility to live for our country, to be good citizens, to do what we can to solve the problems that hinder its progress and hamper its growth. To face confidently the problems of the future, we may find inspiration and courage from the historical fact that we stand here in Newport on one of the thresholds of liberty. For Newport was the first seat of government for the state of Rhode Island and Providence plantations, And from a little room in the old courthouse on Washington Square emanated the first laws and proclamations which were the cornerstone of our constitutional rights. And from this little state, Rhode Island, standing as it did as one of the 13 original states, went many men and women into the vast sections of this verdant country to settle, to build a democracy, a free nation so large, so rich, so powerful that the likes of it has not been seen since the Roman Empire. As we stand here today and listen to the roll call of our honored dead and gaze at the names of our loved ones inscribed on our war monuments, we knew that they too went forth from this cradle of liberty to fight and to die for the traditions and principles of a free, democratic America. The dead have done their task. They have paid the last full measure of devotion. They are at rest. For us, the living, the task is not yet finished. The struggle continues. We still must strive and labor and toil to make our country a land of life, of liberty, of happiness for ourselves, our children, and our children's children. My fellow citizens, twice within the memory of living men, we mounted a military machine which astounded the world. We blanketed the seas with ships and darkened the sky with the multitude of our planes and caused the very earth to tremble under the weight of our armaments. May our beloved country that displayed such unquestioned superiority in the art of war continue to show an equal capacity in the skills of peace. I thank you. Whew. Okay. There's been a lot of talk about war, World War in particular lately, and I do feel very lucky and grateful to be old enough to have known many members of the greatest generation, my grandfather, who fought in World War II. If I were younger, I might only know people who fought in pointless wars or wars that were fought under false pretenses. I wouldn't have been blessed to witness the pride a man has for fighting for a cause worth dying for. My grandfather enlisted in the Navy and was in Pearl Harbor when it was bombed, and then he fought in the Pacific for the duration of the war and was in Tokyo for the POW rescue operation. He was very lucky to get out alive, but many, many of his friends did not. His letters from that time at war were stunning, and I read them often they're stunning for what they endured, but even more striking is the way in which they endured it, with dignity and honor and a clear-eyed surrender to life and God that was wise beyond their years. After being bombed in Pearl Harbor, my grandfather wrote home, "I certainly hope that everybody isn't a nervous stew back home. It appears that way from the letters we've been getting, and we really don't see any reason for it. Mankind has always been the same and always will be. Life is funny, but life is also wonderful and glorious, even in this world of today." He was 21 when he wrote that, 21 years old. In another letter, he frets that he sounds too full of self-pity after telling a story about being blown off a destroyer, losing friends, and being rescued from the Pacific. The overall tone of the letters from that time is different than today, earnest, and most importantly, not whiny in the least. The entire culture we live in, and I'm guilty of this too, so I'm not throwing stones, is prone to whine and complain because we're spoiled and frankly soft. I asked my friend Dan Holloway why it's almost impossible to find positive stories about America. And he said, because we've been conditioned by comfort to look for struggle. Struggle used to come naturally, so we treasured comfort as a goal or achievement. Now we define our experience not by our successes, but by our shortcomings. And he continued, and people don't really understand what America is anyways. It's not our geography, it's not our government, and it's goddamn sure not our politicians. America is the simple idea that individual liberty and personal entrepreneurship are the ultimate inoculation to tyrannical bullshit. And because to me, those are the most important things in the world, I will always love this country. I wish Dan could have been here tonight to say that himself, but he couldn't. And I couldn't have said it better than him, honestly. And now I want to hear from you. I've left this quite open tonight, America. I want to know what you love about this country of ours.